Well, folks, thanks for tuning in again today to Day, the newscast by me, Stockwell Day, that will give you insights into the main stories that are happening at home and abroad, and maybe some angles that you won't see in mainstream media. So, starting right off, we have a situation with the ongoing free trade, so-called tariff wars with the U.S. And many other countries seem to be settling, and Canada has not yet, has been singled out or seems to be. One of the problems that we have is we have one of our premiers, Premier Doug Ford, who usually is a pretty sensible guy and knows how to approach things at least twice now, once on US media and again on Canadian media, absolutely coming out blasting with name calling and insulting the President of the United States and saying that 41 million Canadians can't stand him, which actually the polls don't show, even though there's a majority don't support him. But in the midst of delicate negotiations, coming out with a lot of bluster and name calling is really not the way to be conducting what we would hope for to be successful negotiations. Also, add to that, keep in mind that most products in Canada which go to the US are covered under something called the Canada US Mexico Agreement, or CUSMA. Almost all the products under that, the Canadian products that are going into the US right now as we speak, are going in without being tariffed. They're not being hit. But one of our responses, Canadian negotiators have decided to, on areas not covered by CUSMA, other products, is to start putting tariffs. We, Canada, are putting tariffs on US products that are covered under an agreement that we signed that should be without tariffs, coming in on a true free trade process. And Canada is smacking the Americans with tariffs that are covered by CUSMA. Let's be a little more common sense on this. Many of us, including myself, are working sometimes 24/7, carving out deals, protecting Canadian businesses by carving out deals with Americans that both sides can live with. These would be under products that are not covered by the free trade agreement. And by Canada retaliating, by smacking back, by breaking the CUSMA, and by hitting US products is not helping. And neither is this insult war with all the name calling. So we're asking Premier Ford just to, get his negotiators to focus on tough negotiating and think about the Canadians that we're fighting hard for and making some deals with Americans to prevent Canadian products. This is being hurt by the present approach. Other thing that could be happening that would gain support and soften the U.S. side is any kind of statement we could be making at this particular time regarding our commitment to the Arctic and protecting the Arctic, especially when just in the last few days we've seen China, we've seen Russia doing the saber rattling, talking about the Arctic, talking about moving, in some cases, maybe even nuclear capabilities closer to that. This is the time where we should be speaking out very strong in terms of our commitment, not just to Canada, but to North America in the Arctic. That would go a long way to also helping in the tariff discussions, along with Canada coming out, standing up, and making some strong statements to China about the fact that China does very little to reduce the flow of the precursors that go into manufacturing fentanyl. It's usually not fentanyl in a completed form that comes across the border from China. It's these precursor chemicals, which are then put together once they get to Canada and are killing thousands of our young people per year. A strong statement from the Prime Minister is important on this, not just to tune China in, but to show the US side that we are concerned about this. And people might say, well, we don't want to hurt our trade with China. China has already recently slapped Canada and Canadian farmers with a 76% tariff, 76% on canola, one of our major agriculture products. So, folks, it's time to let's focus on who we're getting tough on. We're getting tough on our adversaries, or are we doing tough negotiations with people who've been our allies? Let's get the focus back, stop the name calling, and get some good negotiations going on here. Just on that particular side, it's been interesting to see the number of Canadians who are canceling previous holidays that they've always taken to the U.S. They're canceling them because they're angry with President Trump, I guess, and going to other places. Listen, as individuals, we should have the freedom to travel wherever we want, and government should not restrict that. I'm in favor of free travel, just like I am free trade. But I was talking to a couple of people and saying, well, one individual was canceling their plans to go to Hawaii, as they do every year. Hawaii is a beautiful spot to go. And on the question of, well, where do you think you'll go instead? They said Cuba. Cuba. Now, I mean, that they have every right to go to Cuba, but they're mad at President Trump. So they're going to punish a business in the US in Hawaii, and they're going to take their money to one of the worst communist repressive regimes around, and that's to Cuba. A little bit hard to figure out. We have favorite spots that we like to go to in the U.S., some where we get to know the people who run, whether it's a tourist operation or a restaurant. We get to know them. They know our kids. They know our grandkids. And so if I'm going to, why would I cancel my trip to the U.S. and punish a hardworking family down there because of the trade negotiations going on or because of who the president of the United States is? Anyway, that's my view. Travel where you like, but think about it. Supporting a communist and a communist country ahead of supporting a democracy. Anyway, had to comment on that. Another area where Canada is standing out, and not in very a very a way which Canadians can be proud of. I'm sure you've heard of now. It's gotten so much publicity. This singer from the United States, apparently a Christian concert singer. I don't know him. I don't listen to his music. His name is Sean Feist, if I pronounce that correctly. And his concerts have been canceled all across the country, all across Canada, by people who don't like his political or religious views. This is by politicians who don't like this guy's political or religious views. Folks, that is alarming and should alarm us, that somebody's political views would result in them being canceled from coming to Canada. That's unheard of. This guy, his travel, he goes all over the world. He goes into communist countries. He goes into extremely repressive, non-democratic regimes and holds concerts without being canceled. But in Canada, we're canceling them. That's just embarrassing. Not only that, it's a violation of rights, and I hope he has some success in terms of pursuing legal means on this. The only province where he hasn't been canceled is in Alberta. That government has taken the view that they don't take a view on somebody's religious comments. If they're not promoting violent insurrection or promoting killing people or something violent, people have the right to express their views, and others have the right to buy tickets to go and hear those views. And apparently that's not the case in Canada, except for Alberta, which still believes in respecting people's rights. Um, Tag along with that news item, and you may have heard this has just happened. The Toronto International Film Festival, which is quite rightly highly regarded around the world for the artistic talent which is there every year, and they always proclaim diversity and inclusiveness. And they've just canceled a film. It's a film about a general in the Israeli Defense Forces who went to tremendous lengths of courage on October 7th when Hamas attacked, raped, and murdered um, uh, untold numbers of Israelis, and some being young people at a music concert. And the film is about how this guy risked his life to save not only his family but the lives of many others. Action-packed film, as I understand it. I haven't seen it. Canceled because of the subject nature. They just feel they don't want to be quite as inclusive as maybe they advertise themselves to be. So marks against the Toronto International Film Festival for not being inclusive and for not truly being diverse. Hey, talk about bans. You may have heard in Canada, two of our most beautiful provinces, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, have banned going for walks in the woods, have banned hiking because of forest fires. Listen, forest fires are a problem. When I was Minister of Finance in Alberta, it was especially difficult to even try to manage a budget. This is 30 years ago before, climate change was apparently causing all these forest fires. First of all, it's important to note statistically, and nobody disagrees with these facts, a significant number of forest fires are set by arsonists, are a result of arson. And in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, not a word about what they will do if they catch an arsonist and convict them for their crime, which should be going to jail for life when you consider billions of dollars are lost when forests are destroyed and lives are lost. Not a word about arsonists who are the significant cause of forest fires. But boy, oh boy, these governments in those two provinces, they're going to go after the hikers. And it's a $25,000 fine. I understand somebody has deliberately incurred that fine so they can take this ban to courts. There's always a tendency for governments to overreach, and it starts to reveal their true selves in terms of how much they want to control lives. And it's when especially they use the excuse for safety. Of course, we need safety and we need rules and regulations, but this overreach is quite frankly frightening. And hopefully, the court case is going to rule against the government being able to go to those particular ends. Folks, interesting in the world of the international world again, we have a situation where in Afghanistan, as you know, when Canada was there and working as we did very bravely with other allies, and Canadian soldiers were very significant in terms of protecting areas that were being built while we were there, health facilities, school facilities where girls could go to school, power facilities. A lot of this was happening. And when you work there, you need interpreters, obviously, to help you. The interpreters, the Afghanistan interpreters who helped us, did so at risk to their lives, knowing that if the Taliban ever got back in control in Afghanistan, it would be a disaster. It would be death for them. Because of the way President Biden, with the disastrous way in which they pulled out of Afghanistan, many of these interpreters fled. Many of them had their lives at risk. There's one of those interpreters right now, a woman who fled, managed to get to Turkey. She's going to get deported back to Afghanistan, she and her son, if Canada does not step up and agree to take her in. When we think of some of the illegal um, immigrants and illegal aliens that come into Canada with horrific criminal records and we allow them to stay. And there's some hesitation right now whether we're going to allow this woman to come in. That needs to be changed. It needs to be changed abruptly. On the area, fascinating development here with in the sports world. Those of you who are basketball fans probably have been watching an all-time record for the sale of a sports franchise, that amazing Boston team in the NBA being sold. We're told it's north of $6 billion, a tremendous amount of money. And I have no issue with what these sports owners are making. I have no issue with the fact that athletes these days can make hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't have a problem with the fact that we have athletes who are billionaires. More power to them, I say. But isn't it interesting how if you're a billionaire, you will not be criticized if you make your billions by in the world of athletics or in the world, let's say, of doing pop concerts around the world, like Taylor Swift has, and she's become a billionaire. Again, I have no issue with that. But when you look at the left and their disdain for billionaires, who in most cases create millions and millions of jobs and raise the level of prosperity in a country, but politicians, especially on the left, say, let's go after those billionaires, and they're derided and seen with some scorn, unless it's somebody who made their billions in music or in the arts or in the sports world. Let's be inclusive of all billionaires. Let's be fair to all billionaires. They're doing their work legally and as they do, creating thousands of jobs and being the major contributors on all areas in terms of philanthropy. Let's take it easy. Some people amusingly say, "Well, there's voiceless billionaires. Somebody needs to be their voice." I'm a voice for every person, whether it's a low income person or someone who has risked it all and become a millionaire or billionaire if they've done that legally. And especially in the light of the fact that they create the jobs and opportunities. Let's go easy, folks, and let's congratulate people who are successful. That's it for today. Let's tune in tomorrow and look at the news of the day. Thanks so much for joining Stockwell Day to Day.